what is the tool that if you only had like not one slot to take it, but you had to take it in every level ever, which would you choose?
Oh damn.
I like how you're asking this, even though I'm pretty sure we all are going to say the exact same thing, and most reasonable people in the community would say the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's the auto sentry.
Yeah. 100%. No. 100%.
I would actually, I'd say there's two answers here. Actually, I think we're all thinking of bio.
Yeah,
and
bio
it's great
is...
to bring a bio every level. But I think you can bring a burst sentry on every level as well.
That is what I would wanted to go into with this, because people recently asked what is the most used tool, and I was like, well, it's bio. No, never mind. You always have a bio. Generally, you have 4 slots. One is bio, and then the other 3, either it's a level where you take mines and foam, where mine has more use case than foam, because there's levels where you don't take foam. But there's also levels where you take only sentries, like a reactor level. But even in the mine and foam one, you always take a sentry. And with burst sentry always being the easiest choice, it's basically always a burst sentry or multiple. So burst sentry is definitely up there in use case. The question is, does that make it another S tier tool with it being slightly nerfed and the other sentries being buffed all across the board?
I think
Absolutely.
burst sentry is still S
Before
tier.
everyone says that, yes, absolutely. Burst sentry S tier.
Is it better or worse than bio to have? Because the thing for me is there's nothing quite like bio. Yes, you can just not take it, but then you're kind of suffering. Whereas if you don't take burst sentry, you could still take a shotgun sentry or a sniper sentry or an auto sentry. It might be worse for the situations, but it still does something. Well, if you don't have bio, you will not have something similar.
There being other good options doesn't detract from the fact that burst sentry is very, very good.
Oh yeah,
and that you can take it on every level and be fine.
The question is more so, is it more valuable than bio?
No. I wouldn't say that.
Bio brings a lot of unique
I think
value.
for bio tracker, if we disregard the pinging, if you have really good communication as a team, you don't need to have a bio tracker.
Yeah, for stealthing, I think it becomes not obsolete, but a lot less useful in higher level play. It's what you see when people start doing levels. It's obviously harder, but the bio becomes less useful if you need the other tool slots filled to support the limited manpower.
It's always been an age-old debate because a lot of people have always, it's always been two sides of the coin: useful, useless. Because I've seen a lot of people argue saying, if you're soloing a level, or like if bio tracker's so amazing, why don't people take it when they solo? And I feel like it's not even a good argument because it's just, well, when you're soloing, it's a completely different playstyle to the game.
Yeah, and you need like all the firepower you can get, right? If you're soloing, like you're trying to make up for lack of teammates. So yeah, obviously you're gonna bring in something that fucking
you need mines
damage.
or a sentry, depending on the level. Yeah, 100%. But bio tracker, this game to me is always about information. Information is always crucial. If you have a good setup and you've got a good plan going into it, most levels you're going to be fine. Like there's not a whole lot of levels out there where it's like even all the planning preparation in the world can't really prepare you for what you might have to face. But in those situations where you have to make split decisions, the best tool for it would always be bio tracker in my eyes, because information is crucial to survival. Knowing where the enemies are, knowing what's on the other side of that door you're about to head through, where that scout wave is coming from. And sure, a lot of that information you can gain without the use of the bio tracker, but with how dark some levels can be, or foggy, or shadows, or just the fact that not everybody is a high tier player who can absorb all that information super quickly. To me, if you don't take a bio tracker, you're either good at really good at the game, or you're trolling. Like, I'd say the average squad should always have a bio tracker no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rate it higher than the burst sentry, just because there's not a single level where I feel like, yeah, bio tracker is really not great, but there are plenty of levels where I feel like sentries are not very useful. Won't say the level, of course, again, but one of the R8 levels in the first half, Sentries can be okay for that one, but honestly, it's not the best for that one because of how much you're running around and how quick you have to move.
I would say like if majority of the expeditions were like R8A1 with the like tropical fauna, large areas where you can't really like see them that well, like oh my god, like BioTracker is the shit. But I feel like a lot of the times if we decide not to take it, all it takes for us to make up for the lack of it is being like, okay, listen in, which door are they breaking through? Okay, it's the left one. All right, put up the sentry there, this and that, blah blah blah. Like I feel like you can, like, and I say this as a BioTracker main almost because I love using that thing. But I feel like with a like if your teamwork is good, you can survive without it. Whereas if you don't have a like let's not say burst sentry, like a sentry, ooh, I don't know, it feels weird, man.
One thing with bio is it makes it so the team has to focus less. A sentry has the same value in a way, where if it cuts down the size of the wave, you don't need to focus on like the mass of the enemies as much. But the information bio gives just means you don't have to focus as much on where are enemies, am I getting flanked by something I don't see through the wall. And you can, if you're better at the game, like more knowledgeable, you also realize what kind of enemies are just through the ping. Does the ping disappear quickly? Oh, it's a shadow. Is there one ping elevated on a door? It's just a giant. You know this stuff ahead of time and can prepare, and then thus need to focus less in the split second when you get the actual information with the door breaking. The question for me now is Minedeployer number 3? Or is it another Sentry or even Cfoam?
Real quick before we move on to the next tool, just one last point I want to throw in with bio as well. Another thing I've always told people is that because some people say, in some of the more difficult levels, you need that extra firepower. Like you need Mine, Cfoam, and 2 sentries, or you need like 4 sentries. Most more difficult levels out there in the game don't provide you with enough tool refill to actually keep 4 tools that consume it up and running, which is also one of the reasons I love bio, because you don't need to put tool refill into that thing.
Oh yeah.
So even on the tool hard levels.
Not yet.
No.
Yeah, God, Vlad.
The secret
No.
1.9 nerf. And it's like, we're taking 4 sentries into a level that has like 6 uses of tool refill and that's it. That's like as soon as those because that's the other thing too. Obviously, once you add a tool refill, every tool becomes useless except for BioTracker, which is one of the other beautiful things about it.
Worth mentioning there, bringing another sentry or whatever in that scenario does give you the 60% starting, but 100% after that 60% starting's gone, you're back to the 0. So you get a little bit of a boost, but I agree.
Okay, Kenny is coming in with the Minedeployer S tier take. What are the opinions on that? Because
no,
I think it's a solid A.
The instant shutdown.
I think it's third, but I think it's a solid A.
It's A.
I agree too.
Because there are levels where the Minedeployer is straight up useless. If you don't have doors, that thing can't do anything for you. It is a horrible tool to take on certain levels like R4D1.
More often than not, you rather wanted 2 sentries to hold a corridor or alarm section versus a Minedeployer, just because there's no doors, or doors just aren't as worth. But it's definitely incredibly powerful, and if it provides impact, I think S tier is definitely there in how much it does. But because there's situations where it actually does nothing worthwhile, I do agree with like a high A tier take. A tier, generally. I think the going to new level you take Minedeployer is mostly so you're prepared in case it's really good.
Yeah, then I would also say like the nice thing about the Minedeployer is if you take it into a level, I'll go back to R4D1 again, good old reactor. You go into that one with like bio, mine, and 2 sentries. The nice thing is the level's not so brutal to the point where those 2 sentries won't be able to do all the work you need. So even then, having a Minedeployer for the very few situations where it can help out, like the 2 moments you can actually utilize a mine, it's not the worst thing in the world. But because of the fact that there are a decent amount of levels where mines just fall off way too hard, it's just it just doesn't earn that S tier slot. It's not like Burst Sentry where there's very, very few levels in this game where sentries actually are harmful to take. Like, there's only, off the top of my head, like 2 or 3 levels where I would say, yeah, never take a sentry into it. Take, like, double Cfoam or double mines in a Cfoam in a bio. Now, a quick thing about mines, if we're talking I think R4 extension, I would give Minedeployer D tier.
Pre R5.
Oh,
It was
Venom.
R4 extension and
Sure.
earlier, yeah.
A completely non-functional tool was non-functional.
God, Minedeployer was so bad back then when it's like, there's 25 enemies on that door. Why are only 4 of them dead?
Yep.
Oh, that was so bad for so long.
So, going from the best to the worst, what is, in your opinion, the worst tool that you could take? Or it doesn't necessarily have to be like worse, as in it's not worth it, because I don't think even the worst right now is like that. But what is the absolute most niche, or where the strength just doesn't jump out that much compared to everything else?
For me, it's the shotgun sentry. And I would put it in D tier.
We think
Agree.
that low?
I think it's that low. Because I think it doesn't provide any substantial firepower improvement to burst sentry. Like, they're pretty equal in terms of kill efficacy. And it just burns through tool like twice as fast. And you could make the argument, hey, it has a really great biosymbiosis stats, you know, doubles its ammo preservation, but it also doubles how much ammo it wastes by shooting the walls because of the fire rate. So I think it's just a straight up downgrade. You should never take this over burst sentry.
I think D tier is a bit harsh though, because if you, similar to how you said it's a bit unfair to drag down burst sentry because there's other options which might be worse but still decent. I think it's also unfair to judge shotgun sentry and there's way better options. I would rather put it in C tier because it's not detrimental in any way. You're not actually suffering, but it definitely has a lot of downsides on top of not really standing out in any way otherwise.
There's like one random guy, you know, has taken a shotgun sentry, and then someone else has taken a burst sentry, and we've got a 4-use tool, and I go, normally I would split this 2-2 between the 2 sentries, but I'm just like, sorry, I'm just going to give this all to the burst sentry. Whoopsie, forgot about your sentry, sir. But again, that is kind of just leaning into there's better options, and, you know, it still shoots things, I guess, occasionally.
The one thing I rarely see, where I actually have a question right now towards you, Vlad, because I rarely see beginners take shotgun sentries for a long time. They usually try it and then never take it again. How was the experience on the tour with shotgun sentry, or did it literally just get avoided?
So whenever somebody would eye one of the sentries, like so I might just be a degenerate, but every time somebody would be like, you know, like a shotgun sentry, sniper sentry, I'm like, just take the burst, burst is fine, burst is fine. But that's, you know, that's me. I'm the meat and potatoes guy. You saw my take with the hammers. I'm like, overall thing, it does what it does fairly well. Like, it's fit for most situations. With shotgun, I myself am that guy. I picked it like once, maybe twice. I saw what it did, and that was ages ago. But I was like, yeah, they're just way better sentries out there, like the burst one. So yeah, we would kind of funnel them towards burst sentry, to be honest with you.
Understandable though. It makes the gameplay a lot more clear as well, because the burst sentry just has the best feedback on the sentries, where you see it shoot and it does damage, does an insta kill, and it has a good enough but not overly insane range or fire rate.
So, to be honest, I was being quiet because I was about to do a hot take, but then I thought more on it and realized, nah, maybe not, because I was actually about to say sniper sentry. But then I thought more on it and decided, you know what, no, I wouldn't put that lower than shotgun. To me, I mean, I've been agreeing with what everybody's been saying up to this point, definitely. Sentries, to me, it's all, like, positioning is usually key, especially for things like auto sentry and shotgun sentry, and really, positioning is key for all of them, but burst sentry. Burst sentry, to me, is just the sledgehammer of melees. It's good in every situation. It's never going to fall off. Shotgun Sentry, I feel like if you have really good funnels, it can be great. I know with R1C2, I really enjoyed Shotgun Sentries because of the ladder funnels. Ladder funnels were amazing because Shotgun Sentry at that point, it doesn't miss too many shots. The big thing, though, that I always look at is balancing resources. In most levels, you get usually an even amount of ammo and tool refill per zone, maybe a little bit less tool than ammo. So it's like when you're dealing with alarms and whatnot, you want to have an even amount consumed between ammo and tool, because otherwise you find yourself in a weird situation where you're either low on tool refill, but you have way more ammo than you can even carry, or, rarely even the inverse where you're super low on ammo, but you have more tool refill than you can carry. And to me, Shotgun Sentry and Auto Sentry go through tool refill really quickly to the point where you find yourselves in those awkward situations of, maybe not a ton of enemies are coming in through the wave and you're conserving so much ammo. But unless if you have a major running and gunning sector where tools just fall off because you can't really take time to stop and place down sentries, or you don't have doors you can use, you don't need to be conserving all that ammunition, really. Which is one of the reasons I like Burst Sentry, is it's because of its rate of fire and its damage, it feels like a nice even split in most levels, where I'm spending basically 50% tool refill and 50% ammo during an alarm. Auto and Shotgun Sentry, I feel like I'm spending 90% tool refill and only 10% ammo, which throws balance off. So I would say probably C tier for Shotgun Sentry, just because in a lot of levels you can get away with it. You just have to be a little bit smarter with positioning, and just gotta be aware that it might go through a lot of tool refill, in which case you have to be smart, I guess, when you use it. Because sometimes not using a sentry during an alarm is a perfectly viable option, and sometimes it's the better option, depending on how you set up.
So between the last two sentries, because you were trying to make a hot take with Sniper Sentry, between Hell Auto Sentry and Sniper Sentry, because both of them, in my opinion, got very hefty buffs, quote-unquote bug fix with the Hell Auto Sentry, I guess. Where do they rank? Contrary to the Shotgun Sentry, they don't struggle with being very similar to Burst Sentry. They have their own unique niche that actually is what they do well.
So I guess I should also say the reason I was kind of thinking the hot take with Sniper Sentry was because we were talking about usefulness. To me, Sniper Sentry, I haven't used it since the buffs to it in Rundown 8, so I don't know what the rate of fire is exactly like. But before, I've always had this feeling of, if you don't have long corridors, or you don't have Biotracker Symbiosis up all the time, it felt like Sniper Sentry just pretty much never shot. It just would shoot like one or two enemies in a wave, and that was basically it. Which is why I thought that it's kind of a niche one. You need longer sight lines. But I feel like a fair amount of levels give you those longer sight lines that you need. Auto Sentry... Hell Auto Sentry's always been more of a stagger focus to me. It's not meant to kill off enemies and deal decent damage. But I've always told people, if I want to take a Hell Auto Sentry in a level, more often than not, you're going to find me taking a Hell Auto Pistol instead. Because then I'm the one who can control when enemies get staggered. I can make sure I'm not going through my ammunition ridiculously quickly. Hell Auto Sentry can be great if you set it up right, or if you pair it with other sentries like killing sentries. But if it's not placed well, it just goes through ammo really quickly, and it basically just wastes all of your tool refill. And it doesn't even give you that much benefit either, because it's not really killing a ton of those enemies, just keeping them in place for a while.
It's a lot better now with the Hell actually working. Like, if you're in a situation where you're close to being overrun, like where you're placing it right next to you to cover, so you can also shoot to kill, Hell Auto Sentry is really freaking good. Its issue is that you don't want to just place it down somewhere and let it go to town. I personally think it's better than Shotgun Sentry right now. I haven't tested it too much. I think it's still very niche. The question for me is more so whether I place it in B tier or on C tier. Because it doesn't feel like it belongs to A tier. It's not something where I'm like, oh yeah, I want to take this in most levels. It's just that Burst Sentry will always be the better choice because it actually kills stuff and conserves its resources a lot better.
Also with auto sentry, the most effective way to use it is to have a teammate with it too. Because if you have that auto sentry staggering and keeping that person safe and they're just shooting and killing everything quickly, it works really well. But in levels where you have multiple full team scans or mixed scans, then you can't really do it all that much. But I mean, yeah, it's a support, it's a stalling thing. There's alternatives to it, but I would say personally, I would say B tier. I do think that when it shines really well. You just have to be smart with how you use it, and you can't treat it like a typical sentry.
I think for me, when I look at the sentries, the stats that kind of stand out to me are how long it takes them to use their ammo. And for burst sentry, it lasts about 90 seconds shooting full time, and auto sentry lasts about 60 seconds shooting full time. And 60 seconds is it's not really that long in the grand scheme of things. So the question I would ask is, am I getting 1.5 times as much value from the auto sentry shooting compared to the burst sentry shooting? Because the burst sentry is shooting for 1.5 times longer. And I feel like the burst sentry is getting me more value in that time. So it's obviously like a big difference in my mind between the two. I would say that difference puts Hell Auto Sentry maybe into C tier. But again, I did put Shotgun Sentry in D tier. So perhaps with Shotgun Sentry, if we're thinking more C tier, I could see it being in a B tier. But if it's B, it's low B. If it's C, it's kind of mid C for me.
I would probably put it at C. I completely agree with everything you guys said so far. I would put it at C for myself personally because I just don't use it almost at all. And objectively, I think that like it runs through ammo so fast, and I don't think that you necessarily get the benefit. I just like it's a hungry fucking beast that I always feel like in a team we're always like managing. If someone has an auto sentry, we're just always feeding it with tool ammo, and I'm not seeing all the benefits. So I would say C. But then again, like it is better than shotgun sentry. Again, in my opinion.
I think the thing with auto sentry is that it's incredibly niche, but it has this niche, so if it actually works well, it feels like it's way better than shotgun sentry, but most of the time, you don't want it outside of this niche. And while shotgun sentry is not good, at least it does what it does very not consistently, it's shotgun sentry, but it is not like super niche in what it deals with. It just has the range issue. And shotgun pellet spread and a lot of other issues which True already brought up. Contrary to that, while I also think Sniper Sentry is quite niche, it deals with things that Burst Sentry can't, which is like, or can't as well, is like Giants, Charger Giants obviously as well. And while it doesn't provide cover fire with stagger as much, it is a lot more helpful in actual ammo and tool conservation. Where it's still hard to actually get it to fire consistently if you're not in the know and you don't have a bio. Like, it heavily requires you to have a bio that pings the targets. But contrary to Hell Auto Sentry, I think Sniper Sentry personally is either high B or somewhere around the A tier.
So the start fire delay, so it's like target acquisition time, went from 3 seconds to 2.8 seconds. And its shot delay went from 3 seconds to 2.6 seconds. So it's not like the biggest changes, but I think it actually stacks up and matters.
Yeah. What's its max ammo now?
Still 32.
And what, that's about 8 per, or no?
It gets 7 something, I think.
As in per refill?
Yeah.
Or?
I mean, you would probably know the exact number.
6.58.
Oh, only 6. Damn.
See, that's why I'm considering. I would honestly think high B tier for Sniper Sentry, just because it's kind of the mentality we had with some of the melee weapons earlier. It's like, yeah, they excel at dealing with giants or tankier enemies, but those aren't a majority, or like those enemies don't show up a majority of the time. Even in some of the later levels, I've noticed, like with R8D1, where some of the alarms had chargers. It was only like half the wave was chargers, and the other half was regular enemies. So I feel like while Sniper Sentry's rate of fire might be better, because of its ammo and the fact that it is, in my opinion, it's overkill for a fair amount of levels out there. Unless if it's giving you a ton of to refill or the level has a lot of like chargers and giants that you have to face during alarms, I don't feel like it really performs as well as people say it does.
The issue is, if you look in the other way, obviously giants are rare, but if a burst sentry locks on a giant, the giant basically doesn't really care and the wave runs past, while a sniper sentry will pretty much two-shot the giants, being a lot more efficient versus bigger targets than burst sentry is, while only being marginally less kill efficient versus the smalls. Obviously there's no stagger, it shoots a lot slower.
Oh,
I mean, it's
my
difficult
personal
to
opinion is
separate.
I would say high B tier. I don't feel like it belongs A tier though with the
What is your
Minedeployer.
opinion on that, True? Because Scalar's saying high B tier. I personally would say A tier because I definitely see
I
the value
100%
in it.
agree with Scalar.
Hmm?
I think it's a B tier. I think it is distinctly better than the other two sentries in that it is a good choice occasionally on levels with lots of giants or levels with lots of charges or levels with lots of nightmares, where it's going to be consistently shooting at those targets. It's great.
True. It's actually really good against
Um,
nightmares, whereas no other sentry
Yeah.
is.
It's good on those levels. And then it also has levels where it's really bad at because no sidelines, etc. But at least there's places where it's good. So it's definitely better than the other ones. But I think since it does require kind of a lot of points in its favor for it to even be good and pickable, it's not amazing, right? It doesn't have the versatility that makes it a common bring. And even on those levels where I think you do bring it, typically you'd be running it with another sentry. You might bring it on a reactor level, in which case you're doing like sniper and a burst or something like that. So I think even then, it's still like distinctly not as good as burst sentry. There's a bigger gap between burst sentry and sniper sentry than sniper sentry and the other sentries for me.
The other thing too, because I just thought of it when True was saying it with like combination of a burst sentry and whatnot. The other thing too is the positioning of a sniper sentry, because I've had so many runs where I have dealt like 80% of a striker's HP, and then a sniper sentry finishes it off, and I just sit there thinking that was a massive waste. Like that's basically you almost killing a striker, and then the person with the sniper rifle on your team decides to shoot it to kill
It does happen.
Like, if you combine a sniper sentry with people who are shooting on the team or with another sentry, it's not guaranteed, but more often than not, that sniper sentry is going to shoot something that's already about to die. And with its ammo economy, that one bullet being wasted is actually pretty detrimental to it, which is the other reason I'm not the biggest fan of sniper, unless if I know I'm positioning it all by itself in a place where practically nobody else is going to be shooting, because then I don't have to worry about it overkilling that much. So
That's a very good point. Yeah.
the thing for me at the end right now would be the Cfoam launcher, because it's by far the weirdest tool in this game. Like, it's the most versatile in what it can do. It completely blocks a game mechanic with alarms if you have a door and enough Cfoam. It is very important nowadays with specific enemies. Like, just Charger Scouts and Cfoam is a very big help for a lot of beginners for actually stealthing them.
I'm not sure if I can defend this thoroughly because I want to place it in S tier. Like, my main argument would be it is the only weapon, the only tool that can like literally stop enemies. Like we had so many alarms that as long as you have a door, you know, you have enough tool refill, you can refoam and refoam and refoam, in like you can like cheese expeditions with that. I feel. But like I know that like yeah, okay, well, you know, you maybe can't use it all the time to its like full effect, which I think like blocking the doors is, I imagine we all agree, is like its full potential. But still, Spray it on the stairs, spray it on the ladder, spray it like fucking anywhere.
Oh my
you know,
god,
spray it
Vlad
the entire
advocating
enemy
ladder
line.
foam?
Yeah, of course. What
Huh?
the fuck?
Bruh.
Glitch
Okay,
abusing,
Confirmed
yeah,
intentional
exploiting,
mechanic.
confirm
Yeah, I've been bunny
mechanic?
hopping
Oh no.
and ladder, bunny hopping and ladder foaming. That's
Cut
what
that
I do.
out!
Hell yeah.
Cut that out!
Oh no.
No, but it's
Yeah,
like
I
it's
think,
it's the one thing that can actually stop every enemy, except the flyers, right?
And snatchers and
Like, wait, can you foam flyers? I've never
No.
tried it actually.
no, I have tried
Okay.
it. It's completely impossible.
yeah, you can't
They
foam
just eat it
Kraken
and they don't care.
flyers, snatcher.
Would it be funny? Would it be funny if you could like you shoot the foam when you foam them and they just fall down like pieces of rock,
They just fall
like
out of the sky.
giant pebbles? It would
Yeah,
be so
that's what I
hilarious.
was joking about back in like R6. Yeah, imagine you see from a flyer and then it's just a meme way to insta kill them because they just fall to the floor and shatter into a bunch of pieces. Like that would actually be pretty funny.
I think the thing for me is, well, yes, it's incredibly strong when you want to use it. It is very expensive to do. So obviously it's a big trade-off of you only use tool, you use nothing else, which is an issue that actually Scalar brought up. But you're not using ammo, so you're completely trading tool for whatever you're saving in ammo. And even more so than mines, it requires doors. And somewhat mines. You can just mine a door and it will have a lot of value quite often. Obviously, foam helps in making, like, they synergize very well. But I feel like Cfoam is more reliant on mines than mines are reliant on Cfoam to work well in the game.
That's definitely a big thing I've always said with Cfoam is almost any level in the game where Cfoam is useful, mines are also useful, but it's not the other way around. Any level that mines are useful, the Cfoam launcher is not inherently useful as well. Yeah, it's an awkward middle ground. Like, it's definitely better than the Sniper Sentry, but is it still in the same tier as, like, the Minedeployer? But then again, I guess Minedeployer is kind of like an high A, so Cfoam would sort of be a low A. Because they do go hand in hand. To me, a lot of levels can either be handled with mines and Cfoam as your primary tools and you basically need nothing else, or it's like, it could be handled with 2 or 3 sentries. Yeah, there's very rarely I ever
But the
recommend
thing
a
is-
Cfoam launcher without a Minedeployer.
There's not a single tool that can that can give you as much time as the Cfoam. Like, not a single tool. And like, I'm not
That
talking
is
about like
true,
it's
yeah.
like how effective it is at killing, but rather how effective it is at giving you time. And I feel like in GTFO, like, having enough time to, reposition your sentries, reload, use health or whatever, like, it's so valuable. And again, you don't even need doors for Cfoam to work. It's just like doors is the most optimal thing, of course.
Yeah, because the door can hold out a whole lot more. The one thing too, though, that I would say about like a Cfoam launcher is that I will practically never, ever Cfoam a door if there's not either a sentry on the outside of it or a mine on the door. Because the other thing too that a lot of newer players I see make this mistake is you don't want to delay enemies and pile them all up if you're going to have to deal with the entire horde all at once.
True, yeah.
Because then you get overwhelmed incredibly easily. Because a lot of people think, oh yeah, we deal, like, that's a lot of enemies. That was so many. Reality, it's only like 12 or 13. Some people in the community don't realize the massive difference between dealing with like 12 enemies all at once and dealing with like 25 max capped enemies
Oh
all
no,
at once.
there's also the
'Cause it-
beginners foaming the floor a lot and just spraying it around, not concentrating it on like a choke point, but just open space, because they think it slows them down, like they step into it and they get slower. Where they, obviously, it's hard to understand how foam exactly works on enemies directly if you don't test
Yeah.
it a bunch.
Actually, you know what? No, I would definitely say it's A tier. Because also thinking about it, I would dare argue that the Cfoam launcher is probably the most versatile, unique tool. It has so many uses. Sentries are just a simple place them down. Mines are basically place on a door or a blood door. Biotracker is up there because all the information how you can use it. But Cfoam, yeah, there's a lot of uses. Cfoaming doors, Cfoaming grounds or choke points to delay enemies, or even in those rare situations of, hey, there's a giant or something right next to a smash lock and nobody has lock melters, but we can't afford to kill it. Cfoam the enemy, smash that lock, grab the item, and then book it out of there, and you're gone. Like, that's one of the few uses I see practically nobody do these days, is Cfoaming enemies, aside from like Charger Scouts. So it's really helpful there too. So yeah, never mind. I would definitely, without hesitation, I give Cfoam Launcher an A tier, just because of how many uses it has.
For me, Cfoam is in like a quantum superposition of being like B tier, being like kind of meh so-so, and being dumb, busted, S plus 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 plus. This tool does stuff that no other tool can do. It absolutely destroys balance. Because if there's some scans where permafoam just absolutely changes how the alarm plays, where the alarm is just, it feels unbeatable.
And you do have to go through a fair amount of tool refill to do it, but in those levels where you're provided that much tool refill, it is insane how much power it has at just making something a joke. Heck, even an alarm where it's like, imagine an alarm that's nothing but giant chargers. That would be threatening. That would be so ridiculously hard to deal with. Oh, we have one door and we've got like a Cfoam launcher with 100% tool refill. We're good. Like, it's not a threat. But let's all not forget the most important, valuable use of Cfoam, which is trolling the heck out of your teammates when they're sitting on a terminal.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
yeah.
I was gonna say that. I didn't want to say it.
It is the best use by far. Nobody could change my mind. It is hilarious. Not when you're doing it during an uplink or reactor, though. That's,
No,
that's
that
just
is the
full-on
best.
troll, but
If you do during
Yeah,
an
but
uplink,
any of the
they
most-
Don't
suddenly
do it,
start
people.
sweating.
yeah, people don't throw the run by doing that, because that's incredibly troll, unless it's a really close group of friends and they don't care that much. But if somebody's just on a terminal, like reading a lore log or listing resources, by all means, just a single glob of Cfoam, and it's the funniest thing ever, especially the perspective.